The beautiful lie we were told you were raised to believe that being a good person would protect you. That if you were kind, patient, and honest, the world would return that energy. You were taught that if you loved people deeply, stayed loyal, and kept your intentions pure, then somehow life would be fair to you. And so you tried. You stayed quiet to keep the peace. You forgave even when no one asked for it. You showed up, gave your best, and hoped that one day it would all be worth it. But somewhere along the way, things didn't add up. The more you gave, the less you got. The more understanding you were, the more people took advantage of your softness. You began to wonder, why isn't this working? You did everything right. Yet life kept rewarding those who played dirty, who lied, who stayed distant, who demanded more and gave less. That's when it hits you. Maybe the rules you were following were made to keep you small, predictable, and easy to use. Maybe the world was never built to honor your goodness. Maybe it was built to test how long you keep giving before you finally woke up. How innocence becomes bait at first. You believed your kindness would earn respect, that if you showed your heart, people would protect it. But what you didn't realize was that some people don't see goodness as something to admire. They see it as something to use. Your honesty became a guidebook to your weakness. Your patience became a green light from mistreatment, and your silence, meant to keep peace, became the very reason others felt free to cross the line. You weren't seen as noble. You were seen as safe, as someone who wouldn't fight back, someone who would stay no matter how badly they were treated. While you were trying to prove you were loyal and loving, they were measuring just how much they could take before you finally broke. And each time you stayed, each time you forgave too quickly, they learned that you didn't have limits, that your love had no boundaries. What you thought made you lovable actually made you easy to manipulate, not because you were weak, but because you never learned to protect your strength. The world does not reward goodness. You always thought that if you stayed true to your values, the world would meet you halfway, that doing the right thing would lead to the right outcome. But the more you tried, the clearer it became. This world doesn't reward fairness, it feeds on it. People don't respond to your heart, they respond to what they can gain from you. They don't see your truth, they see how easily they can twist it. You assume being kind would inspire others to be kind, that being open would invite connection, that giving without asking would create loyalty. But instead, it created a pattern. You gave, they took. You stayed, they left. You explained, they ignored. And still, you tried harder. But now, you're starting to see the truth. This game doesn't follow the rules you were taught. It doesn't care how good you are, only how useful. And in a world built on perception, not intention, being good without boundaries isn't noble. It's dangerous. Reclaiming power through strategy. There comes a point when the pain of being misunderstood, used, and ignored becomes louder than the fear of being seen as cold. That's when something inside you shifts. You stop explaining. You stop hoping. You stop offering parts of yourself to people who only show up when it's convenient. Instead, you start to observe. You start to listen more and speak less. You become harder to read, not because you're hiding, but because you've learned that silence protects what words can't. You begin to understand that power isn't about dominating others. It's about knowing when to speak, when to walk, when to disappear. You stop being available to everyone. You stop apologizing for needing space. And slowly, you realize that distance isn't always cold. Sometimes it's necessary. Mystery isn't a flaw. It's protection. In this new way of moving, you don't lose your heart. You guard it. You don't stop caring. You stop bleeding for people who never learn how to heal. Machiavelli's message, clarity, not cruelty. Machiavelli has been misunderstood for centuries. People say he promoted cruelty, that he encouraged manipulation, but the truth is, he simply told us to stop pretending the world plays fair. He didn't tell you to be heartless. He told you to be prepared. He didn't invent manipulation. He revealed it. His message wasn't about becoming evil. It was about becoming aware. He dared you to stop thinking your purity would protect you and start noticing how people really move when no one's watching. He showed that power isn't gained through loud goodness, but through quiet clarity, that being real doesn't keep you safe. Being strategic does. And when your softness is exposed without a plan, it turns into bait. Machiavelli didn't say you shouldn't care. He said you should stop offering care to people who only see it as a weakness. His lesson wasn't to lose your heart, but to protect it with your mind, to stop assuming your truth is enough, and start learning how the game is played. The dangerous illusion of loyalty. You believed that loyalty was love, that staying through the pain, the silence, the disrespect would eventually earn you a place of safety. But what no one told you is that loyalty without limits turns into self-betrayal. You kept showing up, thinking your consistency made you special, but it only made you expected. They didn't admire your loyalty. They relied on it, used it, and assumed it would never run out. You stayed when you should have left. You gave when you had nothing left to give. You called it strength, but it was survival. You hoped your patience would be seen as proof of your worth, but it only made them more comfortable hurting you. The truth is, people don't value what they're sure they'll never lose. They test. They push. They take. And when there are no consequences, they take more. Loyalty is powerful, but only when it's mutual. When it's not, it becomes permission, and the real strength, it's not in staying. It's in knowing when to walk away. Fear, the respect you never knew you needed. You were always told it's better to be loved than feared. So you worked hard to be gentle, agreeable, and easy to like. You believed that if people liked you, they wouldn't hurt you. But time revealed a different truth. They didn't respect your kindness. They expected it. And what is expected is rarely appreciated. You kept giving, hoping they would give back. But they didn't, because there were no consequences. Love, without boundaries, became comfort, and comfort bred carelessness. But fear, not the cruel kind, not violence, the quiet kind that comes from knowing someone won't tolerate being mistreated. That's what changes behavior. People think twice when they feel there's a cost to crossing you, not because you threaten them, but because your silence, your distance, your ability to disappear without a word carries weight. That's not cruelty, that's power. You thought being feared meant being cold. But what it really means is this: people finally respect the line they used to cross without hesitation. The shift from softness to sovereignty changes when you stop begging to be understood. When you stop offering yourself to people who only show up when it suits them, you no longer try to prove you're enough. You become enough, quietly, completely, without explanation. The softness in you doesn't disappear, it just finds a spine to stand on. You learn that silence speaks louder than over-explaining. That space can teach more than words ever could. You don't close your heart. You just stop leaving it wide open for anyone to walk through. Now, you move with intention. Your time is chosen. Your energy is protected. You give only where it's earned. This version of you doesn't chase, doesn't plead, doesn't perform. It observes. It selects. It protects what is sacred. You're not cold. You're clear. You're not distant. You're deliberate. What once felt like fear is now focus. What once felt like detachment is now discipline, and that is what true power looks like. Not louder, but deeper. Not obvious, but undeniable. The end of waiting, the beginning of reentry. You used to wait for understanding, for fairness, for someone to finally see your worth, but not anymore. That version of you, the one who kept shrinking to be accepted, no longer exists. You don't chase peace with people who bring you chaos. You don't explain your boundaries or ask for permission to keep them. You've stopped trying to win a game that was never meant to be fair. Instead, you've rewritten the rules, quietly, calmly, completely. Now you move differently, you speak less, observe more, and make choices that honor your peace, not just your heart. This isn't revenge. It's reentry, a return to yourself. No longer naive, no longer begging, no longer proving. You've become someone who doesn't need to be loud to be felt. Someone who doesn't need to be liked to be respected. Someone who doesn't fear being alone because you finally found power in your own presence. The game hasn't changed. You have. And this time, you're not playing to survive. You're playing to win on your own terms.